Thank you all for being here this morning. I wanted to welcome you to the first ever virtual faculty development workshop. The last time we all met was a year ago, and I think it's safe to say that a lot has changed for the faculty at UW in the past year, and we've had to adapt and meet various needs of every type, both for patients and for ourselves. And one of the things the Faculty Development Committee thought would be important is for us to pursue having a faculty development workshop in the virtual space, but also to help faculty understand how to navigate successfully in the virtual space. We've all been doing it, but admittedly, we all thought maybe we could do a little bit of learning and being guided by an expert. So we're so grateful to Darren for his expertise and for his time this morning. The planning group for this workshop is really excited to share all that we've done, and we know Darren's going to help us navigate this and become more confident and capable. So thank you, Darren.
Absolutely. Thank you. Thanks to everybody for being a part of this. I'm Darren Harris. I'm continuing to admit people into the room. That's a new Zoom feature as we get started here. Zoom had so many problems with Zoom bombing that they put a feature where you have to actually admit people. So you'll see me clicking people in as we start. That's all good. We're close to 60 people this morning, so good for you for getting up and doing this. I'm going to start. I'm going to go ahead and overview what we're going to do by sharing my screen. So you should, in just a moment, see the screen here with the title slide. Amy, if you could just put your thumbs up, let me know people are seeing that. Awesome. Great. So this is titled, Is My Video On? For many of you, you might have been a part of Zoom or other kinds of meetings where people are struggling with sound, video, a lot of stuff like that. Part of what we're going to do today is to go over some basic Zoom features. We'll also focus in on some tools and techniques for helping people fully participate. So things like how do you use chat? How do you use Google? How do you use video? How do you import certain features into the environment that we're in? So hold on to your hats. I'd like to ask you in just a moment to unmute yourself, including unmuting your video. Most importantly, unmuting your video as we start to get going here today. So that's that. The last thing we're going to do is I'm going to actually help you evaluate how you look in Zoom. Speaking of unmuting your video, what does your environment look like around you, and how are you interacting with the people that you're meeting with? So that'll be the last thing we do today. It's a very helpful thing to do to just evaluate your Zoom appearance, lighting, sound, etc. So we're going to get started here as I continue to admit many people. Just going to ask you to take a look at our outcomes today. So we're going to describe basic skills for the virtual Zoom event that you might be hosting or other kind of event, all virtual based, but we're in the Zoom platform for today. We're also going to name tools to help you participate, as I said, and evaluate how you look and sound. So speaking of that, I just want to review the Zoom features for you. You should see this on my screen here. So you have your audio feature here. It helps you mute and unmute. So if you click on this, you'll see yourself mute and unmute. You can start and stop your video. That's the second feature, basic feature of this Zoom platform. Very similar in all the platforms, WebEx and etc. And then here where it says participants, you can click and unclick that to see how many people are in this particular meeting. You can see if they have their video on or off, and we can do some polling. I'll do that in just a moment. The chat feature is a key feature of the Zoom and other platforms. It allows you to communicate with both in terms of specific words, messages that you'd like to send, but also in terms of if you want to take a poll. So I'll review polling as well as we go through this. It's more registering your opinion. And then finally, this is fun. This is a pretty new feature in the Zoom platform. I don't think WebEx and others have this. It's called the mood or reactions button. So you can click on that. I'm going to ask you to do that in just a moment. What you do is you click on this reactions icon, and then you can register a thumbs up, a heart. You can register a weird looking face, or you can have a party icon. So that's another thing that's kind of fun to do. I'm continuing to admit people, so we're way up over 60 people, which is really fun. So I'm gonna stop sharing my screen. We're gonna play along with or around with some of these features by doing a bit of a warm up. But what I'd like to ask you to do now is, if you could unmute your video. The way you do that is you come over to your video icon, and please unmute yourself. That way I can see you and everybody can see you. Just unmute yourself from the video. This is kind of like a test. That way we see how people are doing. So unmute video now. And I can also chat it to you. Unmute video. So we can see your happy faces at 7:10 in the morning. Some of us are happier than others at 7:10. Unmute your video. Very cool. A lot of you are. That's great. Looks like, I don't know, 60% of you are. It's always a choice. Some people are in environments where they don't want to unmute your video. Totally fine. I get that too. Oh, yes. Dobby, is that how you pronounce your name? That is like the coolest hat. You get the coolest hat award this morning for sure.
Figured it matched my shirt.
Oh yeah, yeah, definitely. It's looking good. Sweet. Okay, so that isn't the first warm up we're gonna do. We're gonna do a little breakout session now, and here's how I'd like you to do this. I'm going to put this in chat. So just reflect on this a bit. I'd like you to share where in the house or the office you're joining from today. Don't do this in chat. We're gonna actually do this in a breakout. And the second thing, what's been your experience being in virtual events? And what you can do to play with this is you can use an object near you or show something in your office that represents your experience. I'm going to share my pen. To me, this represents a lot of virtual events I've been in these days because I want to take notes, right? So that can be an object that represents your experience. So again, the first thing you're going to do is tell someone, your neighbor in this case, where you're joining from today, the actual physical location. So my name is Darren. I'm joining in my office, as you can see. And again, my object is a pen, because my experience is actually I've learned a heck of a lot in virtual meetings this last 6 months now. All right, we're about ready to go into a breakout room with just one other person. So you're going to have a paired conversation. We'll do that for about 2 to 3 minutes each. So you're only going to get 4 minutes. And then I'm going to bring you back and we're going to do it again. So this particular skill is called Impromptu Networking. And now we're going to go into our breakout rooms. So I'm going to automatically put you in right now. You'll see what I'm doing when we get there. All right, so in a moment, you'll be in a breakout room. Totally fine if you only are paired with one other person. That's what we're looking for. You might have a third person, and then you'll just work with that person. All right, we'll see you soon. You'll have to click in saying that you want to join your meeting. So just say accept the breakout. And here we go. All right, that was a super quick lightning round. So we're going to come back. We're going to do it again. We're going to go to a new set of people. So I'm going to start a new breakout. Same 2 questions. Where are you sharing from? I mean, where in your house, office, etc. Number 2, if you had to describe your experience in virtual meetings, what's it been like using an object? And I'm still admitting new people as we go. There's a lot of people to come in. So we'll do that. I'm going to send you to a breakout session again now. I'm going to recreate all your rooms. So I'll show you what I'm doing in the background when we meet next time. All right. We are going to open all rooms. Welcome back from breakout session number 2. Hopefully that was fun. So what I think we'll do is sometimes you do a 3rd round, right? If you have lots of people, it's just like a mixer. So what we were doing was called impromptu networking. So I just wanted to illustrate that, get us warmed up. That's a tool that's really useful to do in virtual meetings to get people engaged early, like we did within the first 10 to 15 minutes. So that's called impromptu networking. You'll get the scripts, you'll get the PowerPoints, you'll get everything that I'm doing today, including a video that actually walks you through these different kinds of steps for how to do breakout rooms. So that'll all be available to you. It'll be in a dedicated folder, and I'll send that to you. So hopefully you enjoyed that. That was our little warm-up feature. I'm going to share my screen again so we can continue with our PowerPoint slides. So I'm just going to get that going here. All right. So I'm going to share my screen again, and you'll be able to see what we're talking about. All right. So we just went over our features, had our warm-up. So what I'm going to share with you now is something that's called TRIZ. TRIZ is a technique to get people thinking about the worst thing that can happen in order to turn it around and make it better. So that's another of the techniques that we'll be using today. I'm previewing for you so you can check that out. Yeah, thank you. That's helpful, Amy. So what I'm going to do now is I'm going to share a video to kind of get us into the mood here.
It's so good to see you guys. Han, out here.
Are we on yet?
Oh.
I thought we were doing a Zoom thing.
Confused?
No.
Maybe you just need a Snickers.
All right. So I don't know how many people have seen that classic Zoom critique from Snickers, but we're going to now be talking about how we can have virtual fails. So what I'd like you to do is I'm going to chat you a little reflection. So just reflect for the next minute on this question. How can you guarantee that virtual meetings will be a total waste of time? How can you guarantee that virtual meetings, like the one we're having today, will be a total, complete waste of time? And after you're done, if you could chat your answers. So I'm writing that here in chat. So this will be your opportunity to weigh in on how can we guarantee virtual meetings will be a total fail, total waste of time. Yes, absolutely. Not coming prepared. Yep, not paying attention. People not muting and doing other stuff. Bad technology is a huge one. Yes. I'm going to talk about technology because that's usually a massive impediment. Yep, unable to sign in. Bad bandwidth. Perfect. Keep going. You all have some good ones. Okay, we'll just give you one more second. What's nice is you can read this, and this will also be part of our record. The chat record is something that the host and other people can actually save. So you can look back almost like a court stenographer, and you can check out what people were writing. Writing email while participating. So one of the biggest things that comes up for people, and I want to challenge you to try hard not to do this, is they're doing a Zoom call like this or a virtual event, and they're doing 3 other things. And I get that there's cats and kids, and some people have cats crawling around them right now. The idea is, though, that you're trying to pay attention as much as you possibly can, not actively trying not to pay attention. That's a massive, massive issue in Zoom. So what I'd like to have you check out now is just a preview for me of Zoom do's and don'ts. But before we do that, I'm going to break you out into small groups again. And what I'm going to ask you to do is you're going to talk about a focus question that I'm chatting you right now. And here's the focus question. So what makes you comfortable and uncomfortable in virtual meetings? And then what are some things that for you work and don't work? So you can think of this as 2 questions. What makes you comfortable or uncomfortable? And what are things that do and don't work? So it's kind of like the inverse to the question we just talked about, total failure. This we want to move towards positivity. So we're not going to chat our answers. I'm going to send you into breakout rooms of about 4 to 5 people. And we're going to take a good 10 minutes to do this in our breakout rooms. So again, the focus question, what makes you comfortable or uncomfortable in virtual meetings? And what have you seen worked and not? A lot of us have spent a ton of time in these breakout kind of sessions. So I'm going to put you into rooms right now. Okay, so everyone clear what we're about ready to do? Okay, so I'm going to give us 10 minutes. Actually, I'm going to give us 7 minutes so you're not feeling like you have too much. And I'll give you 30 seconds warning. So you'll have much more time to wrap up your conversations. So 7 minutes in your breakout rooms, what makes you comfortable, uncomfortable, and what have you seen work and not work? See you in 7. Welcome back, welcome back. Vienna, I love your view of the camera with the leaves. That's awesome. It's very tropical.
It was terrible. You couldn't hear her at all. So something needs to.
Very nice, very nice. Welcome back. We are at full strength, which is good. You all came back. Thank you for that. All right, I'm going to do a little exercise where we do a report out, but you're probably used to kind of boring report outs where you either use the chat feature or something like that. So we're going to do something a little different. I'm going to send you to a Google document, and I'd like you to write in that Google document some of the highlights of what you heard. So in chat, you'll see a link to that Google document. Hoping that that's all going to be functional. So I'm going to follow you out there just to make sure. So make sure that you can use that Google Doc. If you can't, let me know. Yep, I'm seeing a bunch of people go out there. Absolutely perfect. So what we're going to do now is you can just spend time in that Google Doc reporting out for what you heard in your small breakout groups. So that you'll see that start to populate. It's like a big mob of people. So just get in there and do the best you can and see how this plays out. It's kind of fun. It's like a big free-for-all. So play with comfortable, uncomfortable, what worked and didn't work. Again, we're featuring all these things in these platforms just to give you a sense. I see that a lot of you are out there now, upwards of over half. So we've got most people there. Perfect. So we'll spend a couple of minutes doing this. And you can see how fast this can go when everyone just out there just working. If you need more space, just give yourself space by allowing yourself to enter. Give you one more minute for our little mob exercise. All right, finish up. And now if you could take a look at the screen, I'm actually sharing my screen. You can do this in the Zoom platform and WebEx and others too. You can share my screen in real time as you're typing in it. Isn't that weird? It's kind of cool. So I'm seeing exactly what you're doing as you type it. And now we can go through and review it as a group. We can pick out things that we find really interesting. We can open up the conversation and say, hey, is there something that stands out, which is what I'm about to do now. So what I'd like to do is I'm going to stop my share so we can see each other. Looking at that document, is there something that stands out for you? So I'm going to ask someone, some brave soul, to unmute yourself, unmute the microphone, and point out to me something that for you is like, wow, that really resonates, or, oh, that really stands out. So unmute yourself and looking at that document, tell us a highlight, kind of a highlight or an aha. Just unmute yourself so I can see that you unmuted. I'm looking for you, peeps. Let's see. Okay. So Ruth Yamain, would you be willing to participate? Let me start just calling on people. It's the easiest thing to do when we have 60 people. Okay. How about Rodzik? You can unmute yourself, sir, by pushing that mute button. There you go.
Okay, I got it.
Yeah, sweet. What stands out for you, my friend? Thank you for going.
Well, I'm trying to get back to it here. Okay. Just trying to navigate through here.
I'm happy to share my screen too, if that's easier for you.
Well, I'm back in the documents here.
Okay.
So
there's
a lot of things in there. It's a big thing that we just talked about when there's silence and nobody's saying anything.
Yes,
that's a big thing. The other thing is that people have ideas, and then you have the awkwardness of individuals starting to speak, and it's the up, and nobody's sure what order they should speak in.
Yes,
and there seems to be a little bit of delay in the conversation. So
nice, I love that. That's awesome. Thank you.
There's a third one too about there's somebody made the statement that when people share documents that some of us that might be a little bit more presbyotic than others, you have to lean in real close and you get a very close up view of your nose or your face or your smudgy glasses. So that's a little strange sometimes too.
Got it. That's great. Thank you. What's your first name?
Jeff.
Jeff, thank you so much. That's super helpful. Great. Would somebody else? Jeff was the first person. That's often, just so you know, the hardest person to get. So who else saw something that they want to share now that Jeff's got us warmed up? Unmute yourself.
I did real quickly.
Luther, thank you.
Yeah, things were for somebody who's a little older and technology challenged is trying to, at least, I mean, this kind of, it was just kind of, things were moving like really fast in the Google Docs and, in terms of just kind of getting the flow of things technology wise.
Yes. Amen. Absolutely. Yeah. I mean, what we're doing today is previewing a lot of tools. So if this was a meeting that you were running, you would do this. You might even do a test in advance, as I'm about to show you. So yeah, that's super important. Thank you, Luther. You got to get people familiar with the technologies, not just launch into them and expect them to do stuff. So yes, great idea or great point. One more person who wants to share an aha or something that for them stood out. Ahas or standouts?
So this is Mary. I think it's very difficult to be part of a meeting when you can't see the other people to know whether or not they're really engaged or off doing something else. Particularly as a presenter, but also as a participant, to sort of see who's paying attention and and have that impact what you're about to say next. So I like it when people put video on, no matter what they look like.
Yes. So with that request, I'm going to ask everyone to unmute your video. Yes, as we're about ready to see. That is a Zoom and virtual meeting best practice. So thank you for that. I'm going to go back to now the presentation, and we're going to do some do's and don'ts. So you definitely got us warmed up here. So you should be seeing my screen again. What we're going to do is go over virtual do's and don'ts. This will apply to all types of events, including Zoom events. You should be seeing my screen. Mary, could you let me know? Okay, great. All right, so we're going to go over some do's and don'ts. And this will include what we just encountered and what Mary just said. So if you'll see the number one thing here, don't turn off your video unless bandwidth problems exist. What Mary is raising is a critical point. When you're in a meeting like this and you can't see people, it's like a big black hole. It's like we're back on the old time conference calls. So we have the ability to show video. As long as you do, please, please don't mute your video. It makes it much harder to participate because you can't see people. Another don't is don't try and duplicate in-person meetings. It's just not going to happen. A lot of times you try and create activities and duplicate presentations, make it all about the presentation. This isn't about the presentation. It's about the possibility of doing this with virtual technology. Don't leave the most important stuff until last and try and cram it in. It's 5 times more difficult when you're in a Zoom platform or a virtual platform. And if you're trying to fill every silence, this was brought up in our review, then you're going to be really frustrated because you have to get people used to pausing, letting people speak who have problems with technology. It's a different kind of flow, very different than what you're used to. So you have to allow for it. I've been working with people who are blind and deaf, and we've really been practicing this on these conference calls and Zoom events. You need to just chill out and allow there to be a little space. Don't leave your visuals on constantly. You probably see this a lot. I'm just curious how many people see this when they're on Zoom calls or conference calls, constant leaving the PowerPoint on for the whole time. What that does is doesn't allow people to see each other, like Mary was saying before, and it just puts people to sleep. So constantly share and unshare your screen like I've been doing. Don't spend more than 90 minutes before taking a break. Actually stand people up if you're in a longer meeting. Give them stretch breaks. You can totally do this using the virtual technology. Get people to move. Moving is really important when you're doing this stuff. And then finally, don't make it about the technology. If this is totally about the technology, you've lost it because we still are humans. So try and do everything you can to humanize this by getting people up, telling jokes, whatever you need to do. Some do's, you've seen me try and pull this off today without a dedicated, what we call tech host. This is very challenging. I took it on willingly, knowingly. I highly recommend when you do this is to put someone in charge of the chat and the virtual features so that you don't do everything on your own like I've been trying to do today. It's a huge lift. So please do find a tech helper. Try and stay present. This was brought up before. If you're trying to do 3 other things like take care of a kid and do email and make lunches and participate, you're not going to be there. So do everything you can to not to do other things. Make your background and lighting appealing. We're going to go over this in the last few minutes of this call. And then build in time for networking and connecting like we did at the beginning. Just put people in the breakout rooms, make it personal, even for just 5 minutes. Like I said before, get people up and moving and encourage participation by using chats and polls and breakouts. So I'm going to stop my share now, and we're just going to open it up a little bit before I show you this little virtual meeting feature. And just ask if there's any questions at this point or points that people want to make. If you have points to make, please do unmute your video so we can see you, and or raise your hand so we can also see you. Raising hands is an easy way to tell someone has a point to make. If you have your video muted, I can't see your hand raised unless you put it in chat or you click on something that we'll show you in just a minute, where you actually, as a participant, raise your hand. You can do that. So does anyone have any questions or points to make before we kind of finalize things in the last 10 minutes that we have? Yes, thank you, Jenny. Everyone doesn't have a video option. Absolutely true. But I would say of the 55 people on this call, there's probably more than 20 that have that. So if you could unmute your video, that would be awesome.
Darren, would you be willing to show people how to put people in breakouts? I know, that may take a long time, but it just even like a quick, a lot of us have learned a lot of these skills by trial and error, and we're doing, half a dozen of these kind of meetings a week or even more.
So I'm about ready to share my screen with you, and I'm going to actually show you a movie about how to do that. It's a 5-minute movie. So stand by, and here you go. Welcome to the Virtual Meetings Cooking Show, where I show you a behind-the-scenes look at how to use engagement tools, in this case using the Zoom platform. I am wearing my cooking show hat. Let's get started. Over here in the mute microphone area, you can control your audio and your sound. Switch those things up here. You can then, in the video icon, start and stop your video. In this case, I'll stop my video so you can focus on the controls. Cool new feature in Zoom is adding a virtual background. You can also add filters where you can make yourself into a mouse, practice good COVID social distancing and protection. You can add in a number of things. These are quite fun to do. Moving on, you'll see that there is a participants tab here. Click on that to see who is in the meeting. You can rename people. You can ask people to register an opinion. Yes, no, thumbs up, thumbs down, etc. You can also clear all. Clearing all stops your engagement of an opinion and moves you on to the next feature. Here we are in chat. Chat's a critical part of the Zoom platform. Allows you to interact with your participants. You can type in a question. Where are you calling from? That sends a message to everyone where they're asked to respond. You can also private message people by clicking on someone's name. The private window will open where you see it in parentheses, and then you can type them a message. How are you? In this case, Teddy. So only Teddy will get that message. When you want to start sending messages back to the whole group, you have to go in and click everyone. When you're done with the participants and chat tabs, merely click on them, and that gets rid of them and allows you to go back to the main screen. Speaking of which, sharing screen is a key feature of Zoom, where you can share any number of windows that you might have open, including, in this case, I'd like to share a Google video. Sharing a video or any screen, I just click on it, highlight it. Make sure you click here to share computer sound if there's sound in the video. Unless you do that, you won't hear the video. Let's play that video now. You can both see the video and hear the video. When you're done, you want to stop this video and also return to the main screen. You can do that by pressing, let me drag my controls over here, stop share will allow you to return to this main screen. Another feature of Zoom is that you can share any or all of the windows that you have, including a Google Doc. This allows people to fully engage. To do that, I will click on my Google Doc that I want to share. Before I do that, though, I can just go up and grab the URL at the top, highlight it, click it, and post it into the tab area in chat. You'll see that I've done that here. That allows people to click on this link and go straight into a live document. So let's say they're doing that, it's sending them there. I will then share that document live, and they'll be able to see both what I'm typing, like typing here, or what they're typing. I'm typing. Let's say a participant was doing that. So this allows them to fully participate. It allows you to share what's being done all in real time. Very neat feature in Zoom. I'll stop my share now and return to the main room. Now let's go into breakout rooms. I'll close my participants and chat area. So we're back in our main screen. Breakout rooms allow you to move people into rooms of 2 or more people, depending on the number. To do that, you first want to click on the Options tab. That allows you to control the amount of time people are in the breakout room, in this case, a minute. And you set a timer that gives them a sense for notification when they'll be coming back, in this case, 10 seconds. I'll now open all the rooms. Okay, so the rooms are now open, and you'll see Teddy is here by himself. If I want to join him, I merely press the join button as host, and then I can go visit that person in their breakout room. So here we are, Teddy and I. We're now having this conversation, finishing off our breakout room. You can see up here we just have a few seconds left in this breakout session until we get our notice, which will be showing up in just a couple of seconds. Here's our notice that we'll have 10 seconds left before we return to the main room. Teddy and I know now we have to finish things off in 3, 2, 1. And we are now back in our main session. One more feature I'd like to show you in Zoom before we finish up, and that is the Reactions tab. You can ask people to non-verbally give their reactions throughout your meeting. There's a number of icons here, including the party icon. And speaking of that, thank you for watching our virtual meetings cooking show using Zoom engagement tools. Wishing you quite successful meetings as you go forward. All right. So now we're back. And you can see that Ellen's request hopefully was met. You got to see behind the scenes what my controls actually look like. It's hard to do that when we're in this feature, so I just did a video and recorded it for you. Yeah, so we have just a few minutes to do one last thing before we finish. Then I'll have a couple of minutes for questions. So I'm going to share my screen just one more time, and we will do that. All right. So okay. So let me know if you're seeing this. All right. So what we're going to do here is just want to focus on your space that you're in. This is a really big deal for people. So this is a very average office space. So looking at this particular space, it looks great, right? But I'd like to critique it for you in just a minute. So the issues going on with this particular space are threefold. Number one, this person has probably terrible sound. So think about getting a headset Or like I have, I'm going to push this into my frame. I actually have a professional microphone. They're about $60. It's not that expensive to get professional boom mic. So think about sound. It's a big deal. Second thing is lighting. This guy has pretty good lighting, but a lot of you haven't thought about lighting before. There's lots of ways you can improve the lighting by moving lights closer to where people can see you. Being able to see someone clearly is a very big deal in Zoom and virtual meetings in general. The last thing is the background. He has a completely white background, which is fine. You might also think, though, about spicing it up with a picture, something of interest. I have behind me, if you're looking behind me, I have just a Japanese shoju screen, very easy to see, but not overwhelming. So we have a few minutes for questions. I'm going to stop sharing and just open it up before we finish things off completely. Just want to ask if there are any questions in the last 2 or 3 minutes. I see that we have a couple of questions. I don't have Breakout tab on my screen. Only for the meeting host. Yes, that is true. So Mary, only the meeting host will see the breakout room icon. Debbie had a question about private chats. Debbie, if you could unmute yourself and just ask that question, that would be great. So Debbie, what was your question? Or Dobby, sorry.
That's right. I answered to it all. So you said earlier that at the end, the host could see the chats from the meeting. But what about the private chats? Will they be able to see those at the end of the meeting?
Yes, that is an awesome question. So unfortunately, that is true. The host will be able to see the private chats. You have to go back and actually, in your editing feature, take out the private chats if you don't want those to be shown. That's a very good point. Yes, Zoom does record it all. This is sort of a glitch or a problem that I have with Zoom. They record the private chats. So that's just a reality. Thank you for asking that question. Can the tech co-host the breakouts? Yes, you can. If you give people co-hosting rights, you can co-host the breakouts. The co-host cannot control the breakouts, but the co-host has the ability to go from breakout session to breakout session. It's sort of a superpower for a co-host. Time for one more question before we finish. Anything else that you have? All right, I am chatting one more thing in the minute we have left. And that is an evaluation. If you could click on that evaluation, that would be awesome. Just spend a minute giving feedback. It's a very easy Likert scale, and people can just click on that. That would be awesome. For those of you who are finishing, thank you so much for being a part of this. We are now reaching our conclusion. And once again, thanks for your time, your attention. All this will be in a dedicated folder that will be sent out after this meeting. Thanks so much, everybody. Thank you for participating. Great work.
Thank you, Darren. Thank you, everyone. Have a great day today.
Thank you.
Thanks, Christine. Thanks, Amy. Thanks, everybody on the team.